Welcome to The Thriving Mama, the podcast that teaches you not just how to survive, but to thrive in motherhood. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Davis. Today, I want to share a very personal story with you of how intention recently impacted my life. So when I was younger, pre-children, I was a workout fanatic and I prioritized that in my life. I was really active. I ran, I lifted weights, I rode my mountain bike, I cycled, I did all sorts of things. And then when I had my first child, my son, who's now 11, I still did it, but it definitely increased in frequency and intensity. And then I think I had mentioned I had gone through some health related issues after his birth and we moved into a moldy house. That kind of set the tone for the next, I would say, 4 to 5 years of my life. I would go through cycles of working out, starting a workout program of some kind, whether it was just moving my body by walking. Sometimes I would join a gym. I would do all sorts of things, but I could not stay consistent at all. And it was interesting because part of it tied into my lack of energy and then a lot of the symptoms I would get due to the Lyme and mold exposure, how it was affecting me on a physiological level. It definitely was depleting my energy and my mitochondria. But I could have walked. I definitely had enough energy to walk, but I just wasn't consistent. And probably now, I want to say it was about 2.5 years ago, and my son would have been 9 at the time. He said, "Mama, why do you always start working out and doing something and then stop?" Because he would see his dad, who, again, he has continually prioritized working out and maintaining his health and fitness. And that just struck me and it hit me really, really hard because in my mind, like many of us, I knew all of the benefits and why I should be doing it, but I just wasn't doing it because I was making excuses essentially. Biggest one was like, oh, I don't have time. I've got 2 kids, I had a baby and then I had a toddler and I'd be like, I'm too busy with kids and I'm too busy with work and this and that and the other thing, or I'm just too tired. And sometimes being tired was true, but I was never so tired that I couldn't go for a quick little walk outside. And so my 9-year-old son was calling me out on my BS and my excuses. And so at that moment, I decided that I was going to, I made the intention that I was going to start working out again. And I want to say this was in November, because that was November of 2022, because then in January of 2023, it was actually, I remember the date. It was January 9th, 2023, when I got myself a program on an app and I committed to doing this. And part of my process was really setting the intention. I got myself a journal and I wrote out my whole, my goals in that journal. I envisioned the way I wanted everything to look. But at the end of the day, I made my ultimate goal very simple. I just wanted to move my body 5 days a week. And so that kind of became my, kind of early 2023. And it was pretty magical because the more I actually stepped into that and followed through, the more momentum I gained. And I didn't let being sick or going on vacation sidetrack me, because I know in the past it had. I would go on vacation and get out of my rhythm and then come back and then not do it again. Or I would get sick for a couple of days and take some time off and then I wouldn't start up again. And I didn't let that stifle momentum. I just kept on going and going. And sometimes, honestly, when I was sick, I remember I got sick at one point last year and it was several days. And the last thing I wanted to do was, wake up the next morning when I started feeling good again, was work out. But I did it. And you know what? That momentum carried over. And every time you get back on the horse, that momentum builds and it just keeps going and going. And eventually what happened was it gave me the kind of the push that I needed to do lots of other things in my life that I'd kind of been putting to the side, like taking more accountability for my health and balancing my perimenopausal hormones and leaving my consulting job to follow my passion, which was to build the Thriving Mama program and then this podcast. Those were things that had been living in my brain for a really, really long time. And I just didn't really have the, either, I don't know if it was the will or what, but I just wasn't feeling like I could do it. And then I was at a point when I was like, I can do this. And so, even more benefits, there were more benefits that kind of carried throughout the year. And it was, my household, everything was a lot more calm. And don't get me wrong, we are a normal family and there's definitely the chaotic moments, but they were much, much fewer. My kids were calmer and more balanced. The tone of the household was more calm and more balanced. And even my dog, I have a spazzy Bernie doodle, and she'll be 3 next month, but she's a doodle and she's spazzy. And I even noticed a calmness that translated over to her. So the benefits were huge. And so part of my process was starting off my day, just thinking about and visualizing that simple intention. I'm going to work out, working out. And I visualized myself, working out during the afternoon. And honestly, I'd be laying in bed right about to get up and I would, just think about that for a minute or two. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. I also happen to use a 5-minute journal, which I highly recommend if you have not heard of it, because it's really helpful in setting your intentions and setting your day. And when I don't do that, I notice that my day is just a little more, off or sometimes even chaotic. But when I set my intentions in the morning, everything flows so much better typically. And like I said before, don't get me wrong, there's always, life happens, but I feel like I have more control and I'm able to kind of weather the storm a little bit more. So in this episode, we'll cover how setting intentions in the morning can take your days from chaos to calm, how simple, clear intentions align your purpose and your energy to help you achieve your goals, and 3 major health benefits of consistently being intentional. I've launched this podcast to share my knowledge and experience, but I know that real change comes from action, not just information. For personalized guidance, I'm offering podcast listeners a free 20-minute Thriving Mama Glow assessment call. We'll evaluate your situation, and even if I'm not the right fit for you, I'll provide useful resources and support to help you on your journey. You can find that link in the show notes. So one of my main goals is I'm always looking for easy ways for moms to maximize their time and effort, because let's be real, moms are typically the CEO of the household. And whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom, so much of the responsibilities typically fall on you. And so being able to do things, even on the self-care aspect, quickly and efficiently, often, is very useful. I try not to suggest things that are time consuming or long, just so that moms can incorporate these things into their daily lives. And so being intentional is one of those strategies. It's so simple, yet so powerful, which is why I titled this episode Mindful Mornings and Magic Days, Setting Intentions for a Thriving Mama Life. Because it really does seem like magic when you get the momentum of intention rolling, like I described in the intro. Once I, was working out consistently, it was like the energy was freed up and the light bulb went off. Like, hey, I can do lots of things. And, telling myself I didn't have time, that was an excuse. Telling myself I was too tired, that was an excuse, because I was able to change all of those things. In another episode, I'll get into what I describe as productive procrastination. That's like when I'm sitting here and I'm supposed to be doing work, but I decide to go fold the laundry instead. I'm doing something that needs to be done, but it's not what's getting me closer to my goals. That's what a productive procrastination is. We'll get into that in another episode, but I just wanted to mention that because that was one of my biggest reasons I didn't have time, was because I was like, oh, I need to clean off the kitchen counter or do the dishes or fold some laundry or do things of that nature that truthfully can be set aside to do at another time, or we can recruit our kids to help with that stuff. So a lot of things that, the hurdles we put in front of ourselves end up being more of excuses than real issues for us. So intention setting is the process of consciously clarifying and focusing in on specific goals or desires or outcomes you aim to achieve in life. It involves identifying your aspirations and purposefully directing your thoughts, your actions, and your energy towards those goals. So, and something else, a distinction I like to tell people is intention setting goes beyond wishful thinking. It involves really cultivating a clear and positive mindset, aligning your actions with your intentions, and often involves practices such as visualization, affirmations, mindfulness, which is why I purposefully made intention the first step in the Thriving Mama program, because it really does set the stage and set the tone for everything else you will do, and it builds on itself. So when you incorporate intention into your daily life, things flow and you are more in control rather than letting life just happen to you. And so I want to touch on some of the very specific reasons why intention is powerful and important. I mentioned it above, that clarity and that focus. Just like in the episode number 2, when I interviewed Cara Kelly, when she was talking about finding your mom friends or your mama tribe or your community, being clear on who it is that you want and what you need and what, all of the things from them. It's the same thing here. You need to have clarity and focus. When you set intentions, you're defining, your priorities, and you gain clarity about what you want to achieve. And that clarity helps you stay focused on what you want and prevents you from, being easily swayed by distractions or setbacks. And it also leads into alignment of actions. And I feel like this alignment is really, really important. And it's kind of part of where the magic is, because when our thoughts and feelings are in alignment, our actions tend to follow. Intention setting bridges that gap between your thoughts and your actions. And when you set clear intentions, you're more likely to align your behaviors to your decisions and goals. And then it increases the likelihood of you being able to achieve whatever that goal is that you set. Intention setting also increases motivation. Knowing why you're pursuing a particular goal and understanding its significance in your life can boost your motivation. It definitely increases your sense of purpose, which can drive you to overcome challenges that might occur in the face of, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Like I said before, I think in my practice, I see a lot of moms who did the same thing that I would do. They would go on vacation and then they wouldn't, continue on with their treatment plan for themselves, but they might actually do it for their kids. And, that's saying that your kids are a more important priority or they're more important than you are. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You are as important, and you need to be healthy and happy to be, the rock of your family. I think most moms are the keystone, they are literally that keystone of their family. And so you deserve all of this. So, just taking some simple steps can help you get to where you want to be. And the last piece I wanted to touch on was manifestation. Many proponents of intention setting also believe that the act of setting the intention can influence the energy and the circumstances around you, potentially leading to you being able to manifest your desires. And energy is something we talk about a lot in the Thriving Mama program, but also we'll talk about it on the podcast, because energy is so much more than just your ability to, move your body and, just be able to do your day-to-day life. There's energy is a lot more. And I actually am going to do a solo podcast episode on it, because I think it's important for people to understand all of the components of what energy is. But this is talking more about the, the kind of the collective energy. And this topic is debated, but the psychological impact of intention setting on motivation and behavior is very well documented in research. So there is something that happens. And like I said, I feel like you can call it momentum, call it whatever you want, but there is something that happens that builds on itself when you start getting into this frame of mind where you're actively thinking about what you want and what you want to have happen during your days or, weeks or months. I often have people start their intentions small and then expand on that as they gain momentum and they gain more confidence. So 3 major health benefits of setting intentions are: one, which is probably one of the biggest ones, is reduce stress. When you set clear intentions, that helps reduce stress by enabling you to prioritize your tasks, make decisions more easily, and it helps avoid you spreading yourself too thin, which is something that I find moms do quite frequently, and I'm guilty of it too. There's so much power in the word no. And I think so often we are on autopilot and we don't think about things. Sometimes we say yes or no to things that we really don't want to say yes or no to. And it's interesting because it's something that leeches, it takes our energy from us and it takes your power from you. So incorporating intention setting into your routine can help you create a more, I'd say, purposeful, fulfilling, and calm life. Whether it's striving for better health, to start exercising again, or incorporating self-care, improved relationships, or even your personal happiness, setting clear and meaningful intentions can provide the framework and motivation you need to turn your kind of aspirations and dreams and thoughts into a reality. The next one is positive mindset. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of documented research specifically on stress reduction and positive mindset on people who set intentions. By focusing on your desired outcomes, you shift your perspective from potential obstacles to potential opportunities. And this kind of optimistic half glass full outlook can enhance your motivation and your resilience, which brings us to point number 3. And right there with decreased stress, increased resilience is huge. I will say that the goal, throughout my 18 years of practicing functional medicine and, the past 4 or 5 years of trauma therapy, that increased resilience is huge. That is where a lot of the rubber meets the road, because when we have resilience, it equips you with a mindset that allows you to adapt and learn from your mistakes or failures and keeps you moving forward even when things don't go as planned. Because obviously, especially being a mom or a grandmother or a great grandmother, life will always be filled with ups and downs. But increased mental, emotional, and physical resilience will always help us handle those swings more easily so that they don't become setbacks and they don't become, the mountains that we have to overcome. One of the things that I think is huge is actually setting your first intention. And this is an exercise that I'm going to suggest that you do. Regardless of what your goal is, I suggest starting with something simple and small. Intention is an integral part of changing who you are now into who you want to become. So I'm going to invite you to sit down and take a moment when you have a couple of minutes to yourself and dream of something that you want. And I want you to think about it and feel it and imagine it. Like I said, for me, it was that exercising. I really wanted to get back to consistently exercising. And I will say that I have been. It's now, a year and 3 months later, and I have consistently maintained that goal. And I'll get a little bit more into exactly what it was. So what you first need to do is state your intention and describe it in vivid detail. What I suggest to people to do is to write it down first so you have a record of it, but then speak it out loud to yourself to give yourself some accountability. Because one of the reasons I find that people aren't as successful when they set a goal or an intention is because of that lack of accountability. If you don't say it out loud or put it on paper or say it to somebody else, nobody else knows. And, then you don't have to be accountable to it. but accountability is a really, really key feature in being successful here. So I'll tell you what I did in my process. Like I said, I had my 5-minute journal. I wrote about what I wanted it to be and how it was going to look. And then I simplified it. And that is the next step. So it's being clear, concise, and simple when stating your intention, because where your intention goes, your energy flows, just as we had mentioned above. And I'm going to say that again one more time because it's super important. Where your intention goes, your energy flows. And this is where kind of that magic happens. Like I said, you build that momentum. And so, for example, like I said, I had that vivid picture of what I wanted my working out self to be. But when I got down to it, my simplified intention was I will work out 5 days a week. In my mind, that looked a little bit different. I knew I wanted to lift weight 3 days a week and do conditioning 2 days a week. And if I did anything else, that was all the better. It was extra. If I went, for a walk with my kids or a bike ride with my kids or got an extra day of conditioning in, that was all just, kind of icing on the cake. But my pure goal was to work out 5 days a week. And I ended up, for the most part, doing that 3 days of lifting and 2 days of conditioning. But sometimes it wasn't like that. Some days I didn't have the full on energy to do one of those workouts. So I got on my exercise bike and rode it for whatever the time was that was prescribed for the workout. I did that. So I was moving my body and staying true to my goal and my intention, but it wasn't exactly as prescribed. And that's something else I wanted to point out, is giving yourself some grace and flexibility in those situations. Do what you can. Even like I said, just going outside and going for a walk, that still counts as moving your body. And so that's where I was. I was like, I will work out 5 days a week because I knew I could do that. The next step is just being positive. And if any limiting thoughts enter your mind, reframe them or even kick them out of your mind. For instance, like I said, tiredness or lack of time was often one of my excuses. So when I would think to myself, oh, I don't have enough time to do this, I would reframe it and say, yes, I do have time to do this. I have time to walk, or I have time to ride the exercise bike. So I would reframe it to myself. The other thing I have people do is, I think I've mentioned it in one of the previous podcasts, but if you have like a negative, belief or a negative thought in your mind, and you ask yourself, is this my thought or is this someone else's? If it's somebody else's, kick that out. Visualize your brain kicking that thought out. And if it is something of yours, it might need to be worked on. Like, it's for a lot of women, it's like deserving. Oh, you don't deserve this. So that's something that can be worked on. But again, reframe it so that it gives you that shift. When you have that mental shift, it causes physiological changes that allow you to keep moving forward, which is how, that's kind of how that works. And so the last step I would say is to actually implement this. When you're laying in bed in the morning, think about this intention and visualize yourself taking action, because setting your intention in the morning sets the tone for your day, and it can turn chaos into calmness. Like I had mentioned before, if I have a daily practice of setting intentions, and it grew from that one simple statement of I will work out 5 days a week to me now trying to, I essentially plan out my day, and I lay in bed and I visualize what I want it to look like. And then when I get up, I take my journal and write down, 3 things that I would like to accomplish in that day. And you know what? A lot of times I get it done. Sometimes I don't. And that's okay. I still keep on going, and I don't beat myself up over it. But I do notice that the days that I actually, have this, the intention, and I'm very clear, those days go so much more smoothly than the days that I don't. So it really does have the magic of turning the chaos into calmness. And so the last thing I would like to leave you with is that you are capable of amazing things. I feel like and when I talk to moms, either, in my practice in the program or out on the street, so many moms are living in a limited world because of everything that they're holding on to. And I want to remind you that you are capable of so much. You are so capable of amazing things. And I know moms shoulder the majority of the day-to-day responsibilities in the household, and that's true for me too. And it can feel so difficult, but setting one small, simple goal for yourself and putting one foot in front of the other every day, just watch the magic happen and watch that momentum build on itself. And you'll gain so many things. You'll gain more confidence. You'll gain more perspective, and you will realize that you are capable of so much. And if you get sidetracked, it's okay. It is okay. You're human. We are all human. Just get back up, start again and build that momentum, because you can make your goals and all of your dreams happen. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Remember, knowledge is just the beginning. Taking action is what truly sparks change. If you're overwhelmed and don't have enough energy to make it through the day, I invite you to book a free 20-minute coaching call with me. It's a no-obligation chat where we can discuss your health goals and how I might be able to help you achieve them. Visit the link in the episode description to book that call. Until next time, keep striving for wellness, and remember, you have the power to not just survive, but thrive in motherhood.